Some say that freedom is forged, not given. I don't know. I think there's some value there. I think there's some valuable insight.
I would agree.
It's not just something that you're going to get. You have to work towards it. I know one of the Marine Corps' big things, one of the ad campaigns was steel forges steel.
Forged in steel, yeah.
There's a lot of parallels with metalwork, apparently, in American and Marine Corps. In our legacy.
Go figure.
Yeah, you gotta take something that's, a valuable material, and then you heat it and melt it and make it malleable, and then you can then turn it into something. And I think one of the things we do oftentimes, especially for those who are outside of the service now, is we find that the self-motivation to do that starts to wane, especially as I'm staring at 50 now. It's not so easy for steel to forge steel.
Yeah, no, I'm way beyond 50.
Well, here's an idea then. Here's one way, especially when...
How can I motivate myself, Vic? What do you think?
I think one of the things we can look at is as we're trying to heat things up, especially, we're coming out of this crazy bomb cyclone thing here. We've got to heat things up a little bit. We've got to become malleable. We got to start turning ourselves into something. We're already valuable. We just need to shape it and make us worth something. And one way you can do that is you can take on the Forged in Freedom 250 challenge offered by the Marine Corps Association Foundation. And to do that, you can complete 250 miles.
Oh, yeah? How do you do the 250? Do you have to run? Because I don't like to run.
Well, you don't have to run. There's a myriad of ways. You could run if you're, that's freaking badass. Or if you're like Sergeant Major Justin LaHue, you could walk it.
Yeah.
You could bike it.
Yeah.
You could swim it. You can row it. As long as you're doing something that is physically exerting and that takes you a distance. So, you can, I would love to be able to bench 250 pounds. That would be awesome. It's not a qualifier for this. I should still do that.
Okay.
But if you want to participate, you better run, walk, bike, swim, row, in any of those combinations or one of them individually between March 3rd and July 4th.
Okay, so how do I register for this?
Okay, very great question. So if you go to mca-marines.org/MCA events, that's EVENTS, MCA events, /category, /foundation -events.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. That's a mouthful. But you could also just text America's 250 to 41444.
Awesome.
That's America's 250 to 41444.
That is very cool. And how am I going to prove to people that I did this? If I do this, that's a big if. I don't know if I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. How do I prove it?
Well, give it a shot, and not only will you be forging your own steel, but you'll be able to get a keepsake of that forged steel in an exclusive commemorative coin.
Love a coin. Yeah. I love a coin. Okay.
So once you register, I think it gives you all of the sort of accountability. I mean, quite honest, I think it's an honor system. But, don't shortchange yourself. This is about, obviously the coin is amazing. But, it's about, again, steel forging steel. It's about about not just taking on something, but appreciating it and working towards it. Remember, freedom is forged, not given.
Okay. And it's
just like this coin is not given. It's got to be earned.
Okay, and it's called the Forged in Freedom 250 Challenge,
right?
That's
right.
Okay.
In honor of America's, 250th birthday.
I love it. Sounds good.
Awesome. See you on the road. Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners. Welcome to episode 232. This is an episode that we wanted to do when we first thought up the idea of hosting a podcast, but honestly never really thought we'd actually get to do it. Well, this week is an extreme honor to welcome the 39th Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Eric Smith, and the 20th Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major Carlos Ruiz, to the Scuttlebutt. The Commandant and Sergeant Major talked to us about prioritizing the amphibious ready group and Muse, their thoughts on what a Muse should look like, and the demand signal from the combatant commanders for this capability, how important the quality of life improvement initiatives are to them, their focus on suicide prevention, and the impact 7 years of force design has had on the Marine Corps' role in the Joint Force. Also, a huge shout out to Major Nick Klein and Gunnery Sergeant Jordan Gilbert for their hard work in making this happen. This is episode 232. Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners, thank you for joining us and your continued support. I am really, really excited. So let me just get going before I start rambling. But today, Nancy and I are joined by two Marines who really require no introduction. The 39th Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Eric Smith, and the 20th Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major Carlos Ruiz. Gentlemen, I can't thank you, most sincerely thank you for being here today.
No, it's a privilege. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and with the weather and everything, this is really, we've defied the odds. And so thank you again so much for being here.
You bet, Vic.
Absolutely, sir.
Well, General Smith, let's just jump in. In October, you wrote an op-ed advocating for the return to the 3.0 ARG-MU presence. The Gazette also hosted a writing contest in our November edition, focusing on the new ideas for the MU. And we've got just really a ton, I think, of people wanting to engage in this topic. Some unbelievable ideas. That was really fun as part of the editorial staff to look at some of the stuff that was coming down. Why, especially as we were coming out of Marine Corps 250 and we are approaching, or we are now into, but at the time approaching America 250, was the MU such an important topic for you, especially given that sort of confluence of these monumental milestones?
Yeah. Well, the ARG-MU is our premier force offering to the Joint Force. I mean, it is a little bit of combat, a little bit of logistics, a little bit of sustainment, a lot of air power. I mean, it can go anywhere and do anything. Got 22 missions assigned to it. But an amphibious ready group is a 3-ship ARG. It's a big deck and 2 little boys. I mean, it has to be. You can send out something less than that, but then you don't have an ARG-MU. You don't have a full-up squadron, a full-up infantry battalion reinforced, and a full-up combat surface support unit. And so, the combatant commanders are calling for 5.5 ARG-MUs. And so I think the least that we can provide is 3. That's what we've traditionally provided, one off the East Coast, covering down on the Med, covering down on Africa, one off the West Coast, covering down in the Indo-Pacific, and then our 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit episodically deployed out of Okinawa, Japan. Again, the ARG-MU, it is existential to the Marine Corps, and it is something that the combatant commanders are screaming for. And I'm working closely with my shipmate, the CNO, Admiral Caudle, to get the amphibious ship readiness up to where it should be.
Roger, sir. Yeah. And Sergeant Major, I know from your standpoint, as someone who's long in the tooth in
Whoa,
MU.
you just called it.
Wow.
Everywhere I go.
Rope. Yeah.
Coming
off the top rope. So.
Because of the fangs, it's long in the tooth, but from the kill side of it.
Gotcha, sir.
Nice recovery.
What were some of the changes then when you were a young operator on the MU to what you're seeing now as far as how we're employing the MUs and how the Marines are executing those missions?
Yeah, we get a chance to get on board, and I think what's most impressive that from 30 years ago to today, the way that the Marine, these proving grounds, right, like all the workups, the PTP that it takes to get to the ship and then at the ship. So you visit the Marines 60 days, 90 days before they get on board, and then you visit them halfway through their MU, and it's a completely different Marine. And so whether it was 30 years ago, 40 years ago, called a different name then. I forgot what it was called back then.
MAU.
The MAU, that's right.
Marine Amphibious Unit.
That's right. It's at the pointy end of the spear that Marine looks exactly the way that it did.
Mm-hmm.
That how they did,
Mm-hmm.
30, 45 years ago. That they just are looking for an opportunity to get off the ship and prove it. Like, that's all they want.
Right.
Like, to deliver to the American people. 911 force, this is where we fight from. This is how we project power. And if they can just get a chance. So, I mean, we're ready. And they're just, the eyes are just different. The confidence, they stand, they walk different. And then they return back to the fleet. And they give back to the Corps everything they've learned. So, awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. For me, speaking of being along in the tooth, I was a Clinton-era Ascension, and the MUs were the thing. Everybody wanted to be on the MU. That was where the All-Stars went. Then we went into the Long War, and that dynamic changed General Spencer, do you see that paradigm shifting back again to okay?
Yeah, I do. And we frankly we walked away from the Muse for 20 years. We went and fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. Sergeant Major and I both fought there. We were proud to do it. We were called by our nation to do it. But I always say this isn't a ding on the Navy. I mean, we walked away from amphibiosity for 20 years. We were fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. We were completely ground centric. And then we came back after 20 years and said, hey, you still got those amphibs around? And, the Navy had we weren't using them, so they were not maintaining them. And now it's a matter of it's a generational change. It took us 20 years to get into this hole. It'll take us 30 years to get out of this hole. So I view it as a return to our normal, steady state operational capability, because it's not just the MEU. It's what the MEU brings when you aggregate it. You bring it and you aggregate it into the MEB, and then you aggregate that into the MEF. And the MEF is the chainmail fist. The MEF is the warfighter. One MEF is a warfighting MEF. Two MEF is a warfighting MEF. Three MEF, a warfighting MEF. But the MEU is our day-to-day offering to the combatant commanders. And again, they're calling for 5.5 ARG MEUs. We can only deliver, right now, we can only deliver about 1.5. We need to get that back to 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, then, sir, I mean, the 22nd MEU, we saw supporting operations in Southcom, 31st, South China Sea. Do you view those missions as examples of the MEU's flexibility? Understanding that, like you said, those are regional commands, but at the same time, I mean, that is, as you're saying, that's the crux of what we do as a Marine Corps. And so is that level of flexibility the value?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the ARG MEU can do anything. I mean, it proved itself in the recovery of President Maduro, or Nicolas Maduro. He's not a president anymore. FAFO, as they say. They're constantly on call in the South China Sea. They're constantly on call in the Indo-Pac. They're constantly on call in the Med and off the coast of Africa, and obviously in our own hemisphere. The ARG MEU has proven its worth time and time again.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about quality of life, which I know has been a priority for both of you. And it's not just about the barracks, right?
Right.
It involves a wide range of programs working to improve. So where do we currently stand in those quality of life initiatives, and do you want to see more progress?
Oh, we're not nearly where we need to be. I want to see a lot more progress, because it's not just the barracks, although it starts with the barracks. Because if you can have a clean, safe place to lay your head down at night, that is what we owe the Marines. We owe them a decent chow hall. We owe them a decent gym. That's the only thing they ask for. Decent chow hall, decent place to lay their head at night, and a decent gym. That's it. I mean, that's right. That's all they're asking for.
That's right, Commandant. And the last, to the Commandant's great credit, I keep saying it, is that the moment he took the seat, he said, "Get this moving this direction," and as the Marines have entered the Corps, they have seen with their own eyes the refurbishing of, I think it's 23 barracks.
23
you've done so far, Commandant. And so more are on the way and getting ready to get started, so Marines can see a new mess hall being built in San Mateo, like something that we never thought was going to be possible. It's like a brand new, beautiful mess hall with the quality of food that the Marines need. And then you get into childcare, and then you get into the whole umbrella of Marine Corps Total Fitness and the way that we develop a young person today. They need to be different than how we were raised, with someone with a cigarette in their mouth and running PT in the front, right?
And that includes spiritual health.
Yeah.
I work with the chaplain of the Marine Corps, Kerry Cash, who's a trusted advisor. It includes their spiritual health, because that is a huge part. A Marine who is grounded, who has a grounded faith, is far less likely to take their own life. And suicide, sadly, remains a challenge for us across the DOW. And even in the Marine Corps, we're not immune to it. We're full of 18 and 19-year-olds who like guns. And, I'm glad they like guns. I like guns. I got a couple guns at the house.
Same.
Don't say that, because I live in D.C. I don't want the police to come to my house, although I live on a federal installation. But we got to figure out how to make Marines see a better option than suicide, because suicide is not a Marine Corps thing. It's not what we do. But it continues to be a real challenge for us. And I think it's a societal issue. When I was growing up, you got dumped. Okay, well, you got dumped. Next, you told your old man, he said, well, maybe you should fix your acne, or maybe you should get a better haircut or whatever. but now it's okay. Well, my life is over. We gotta kind of coach Marines about how to accept rejection and how to accept not getting what you want, so that the first time you get rejected isn't the last time you get rejected.
And Sergeant Major, you addressed that recently in a video. I saw a video you put up on social media. It was extremely powerful video with that message. Have you had any response to that so far?
If I would give over the phone for all the DMs that came in to be posted, right? I would never do that, but just to see from the young Marines themselves to spouses and parents who have lost a loved one, not just a Marine, just a loved one, period, how they are now saying, just the Commandant just stated, it is not okay. We fight, especially in this tribe, like you fight to stay alive. You fight for each other, and it's not how we built you. It's not what you're meant to do, and in this world maybe of being desensitized because of AI has the answers, and maybe we're in a different spot than we were 20 years ago. You have to be that more talented and gritty about how you get after your soul of your Marines, to understand the moment that they're off, right? That something's up. And then the other way around is that you have to trust one more time. You have to attempt one more time to tell somebody that this is going on. And so I'm glad that the video is on fire, but what I really wanted was for people to read the caption, which really is what I wanted them to know. That is, you're just transferring that pain to your loved ones, to your fellow Marines, to your family. And then the part that got me, for your children, 3 times more likely to commit that
suicide.
act if you have a parent that does that. I don't think people, when they're in that state, that maybe they're thinking about those consequences. So if I let you know now that this is what we're seeing, find something to get obsessed about that's not alcohol when those things are happening. Put a barrier between you and your handgun so you have time to think about it. And these are things that you can do today, so when life does hit you, that
and it does.
It comes for everybody. So
and you gotta be aware. You gotta understand. You gotta know your Marines. I mean, I still remember my first platoon. It was supposed to be 41 Marines. I had 20 in it, and I can remember them all. My platoon sergeant was a guy named Rick Hawkins, and he said, "Hey, sir, I want you to go out and see where all your Marines are living. You're not gonna like it." This was in Hawaii, when $3,500 a month rent was the norm, and we were getting about $2,000 a month for BAH. And I went out and I visited where all my Marines were living, and it was stunning. I mean, it was shocking. It made me realize, hey, you got to get involved. You got to know your Marines. You got to know their families. You got to know their story, know why they're here, know what makes them tick. And again, it's okay to have a bad day. You can either knife hand a Marine, or you can, put your arm around them and pull them in a little bit and say, hey, what's going on today? What do you seem a little bit off today. That's okay. That's not un-Marine-like. I mean, I can imagine Dan Daly, big tough Dan Daly, still loved his Marines, still would have known his Marines, and would have said, hey, what's going on today? Okay, you're having a bad day. You're going to go to the back of the formation, and we're going to have a little sit down. We're going to take the pack off for a little while. We're going to get you healthy. We're going to get you right. They called it shell shock back then, PTSD now. But you got to find out what makes your Marines tick. You can't love them too much.
And I like what you said, sir, about the importance of spiritual fitness, because that adds one more layer, and that's one more person who to whom you can confide, and one more person who knows you and can sense when you're off, or when things are off for you.
Absolutely, yeah. Chaplain is key. I mean, we have a great chaps, Kerry Cash, chaplain of the Marine Corps, and we have a tremendous number of chaplains, but we have a dearth of chaplains. We are way short on our number of chaplains that we need in the Marine Corps, and the Navy's doing everything they can to recruit and retain their chaplains. But it is a real struggle, especially in the Catholic faith. We are really, really doing some pretty creative things with some of the archdioceses of the military to try to get archdioceses to let their people come and be military chaplains and stay military chaplains. But it's a challenge.
And Sergeant Major, when you had mentioned about the tribe, last time we spoke, you were putting an emphasis on wanting to get the VSOs more involved, or at least veterans in general, as a community that, hey, look, there you have a responsibility, or you should welcome that responsibility that even though you're out of uniform, there's still mentoring and guidance, and you are still a resource that we could tap into. How is that going? How have veterans responded to that sort of call to action?
I think we have a lot of work to do on our end, in that when we close down our fences and our gates to, and in this world of you have to be very careful who you're letting inside your fence line, we made it very hard for veterans to return to base and be part of formations again, and it takes quite a bit of things and bureaucracies to get you approved and get you in and get you in front of Marines. And so I've shifted now the focus to our formations and say, hey, they're right outside the lines and they want to help you, right? So get him in, figure out a better way to get him inside our formations and speak to our Marines. Put it in your teep. Get it after it doesn't have to be a Friday, 1800 right. Eyes roll in the back of the head type of thing. It could be a Monday thing, right? It could be on the field. It could be figure out a better way to get them inside, or find a way to get them to them, right? And so I think they're very passionate, and they have a take and they have a say on a lot of what we do or what we don't do as a Marine Corps. But one thing they do have it right is grit, and how they don't listen to that little voice in their head anymore, because they have punished that little voice of quitting that doesn't exist, right? Like those things are not present anymore because they've gone through the gauntlet of decades of life, ups and downs. And they just have that ability to reach a Marine in a way that the Commandant and I can't. You're supposed to say those things. You're the Sergeant Major Marine Corps, you're the Commandant, and you're supposed to say these things to me. And a sergeant that exited, 5 years ago, immediately credibility, right? Like, don't do this. Right, and they listen because they can see, and they still speak the same language, right? So it is still, I'm still challenging them everywhere that I go. I try to speak to a Marine Corps League or a VSO and get them together and speak to this for them to evolve to 21st century and be accessible to the Marine, and not pay into an institution with a check, because nobody does that anymore. And so I think it's working a little bit in getting them there. And then the new institutions is making sure that they don't forget the old. And then in that, we can build that triangle between current and those who have gone before us and keep us moving.
I still write checks. I
do.
So
I write checks.
I'm dating myself. So
should I be embarrassed? I don't
no,
know.
Do you have a coin jar?
I don't want to be behind you.
You have a coin jar?
I have several coin jars, so categorized: pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters.
Yep.
Got to be organized.
There you go. Got to be
Love
organized.
some organization.
I don't want to stand behind you in line.
That's right.
Well, I put them in an envelope and put a stamp on them and put them in the mailbox.
Goodness.
I am really old school.
Man.
Wow.
So you're the one keeping
I don't even do
the
that.
paper coin holder thing. That business is still
we're
alive
gonna,
because you.
okay.
Yeah, you're the lady everybody talks about at the bank. Like, oh God, we're getting behind her. Here we go. Stand by.
Maybe not. On a more serious note, so the Marine Corps met its fiscal year 26 retention goal in October already, which is amazing.
Day one.
Has that been a blessing and a curse, both?
Yep.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, it's a blessing because, we literally, the day we opened our recruiting or our retention numbers, we closed them. I mean, that day. We had people lined up to go into the slots. But we can't keep everybody because we can't afford it. Fire team, 1 corporal, 3 lance corporals or PFCs. You can't have 4 corporals in a fire team. So it's unfortunate, but we have to have Marines that are willing to lap move into other MOSs. We have to have Marines that are willing to step up and try something different. Move into the cyber world, move into maintenance. But we are retaining a huge number of our Marines. We just can't retain them all. And that makes me sad, because we got a tremendous number of really high quality Marines that we have to say, hey, how about the reserves? How about, or in some cases there's not a slot for you. And that pains me, but it's a good problem to have.
Sure.
Yeah, in the queue, as soon as October 1st hit, we were way over the goal.
Yep.
And what we're going through now, which is what I think maybe a little different, is that now we have to choose is who gets a seat at the table.
Yep.
Right.
And we have to be careful, that just because you never had a run-in with life or a platoon sergeant that got on you and maybe some bad paperwork was put in there, counseling at the time, we have to be careful to make sure that we don't just hire the perfect, spotlight. That I need a little gritty, I need a little maverick, I need so it is. This is the guidance. Is like, hey, make sure that who we are retaining is who we want to retain, and not necessarily what the system says.
Yeah. I think
Right.
when I came in, we were sort of coming out of that sort of zero defect mindset, but it had ramifications, and there were ripple effects in there, and there was a real hesitation, I think, in some ways, like you'd mentioned, Sergeant Major, to exercise that grit. And there was, at the lower level, I think, a hesitancy even to sort of speak your mind and stuff. So I think that is important that you are looking sort of at that whole Marine, because there's a lot of goodness in there, even if it still has to be shaped a
That's
little
right.
bit, right?
Yeah. I once reduced a Marine. On the very next day, I meritoriously promoted him. So at RCT8, you're not really allowed to do that, but I did it anyway. Corporal South. So, RCT8, he mouthed off to a staff NCO, and boom, you can't do that as a corporal. So boom, made him a lance corporal. Next day, I meritoriously promoted him. So, because he was really good.
Yeah, there's something to those Marines.
Yeah.
Right, that come from the other side of the tracks, or the good side, whatever. It is, they're finding their way, and along the way they're gonna make mistakes, and we have to be good enough to say the talent and the potential is there. We understand you made this, and if we are a culture of hold you accountable, move on. If we are who we say we are, then let's give them an opportunity.
Well, it's mind-blowing to think that, and this was something that, especially as a platoon commander, as a company commander, there was never a day where I wasn't amazed by the things that my Marines were doing. Because as good as our entry-level training is, those Marines were just in high school a few years, maybe even a few months ago. Yep. And so the amount of responsibility that they take on, especially in a forward environment, is astronomical. And so I think you do have to show that grace and see that potential, even if it is a little rough around the edges.
Well, there's a saying, there's a difference between grace and mercy.
Yeah.
Grace is when you get something that you don't deserve, and mercy is when you don't get something that you do deserve. And both have a place in our Marine Corps. Grace and mercy. They're wicked hard to balance, but sometimes you deserve to get busted and you don't.
Yeah. What was it? The Napoleon. I think we're like, well, if you did, like, if he give it to him because he doesn't deserve it, that's the mercy, right?
Yep.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's so good. General Smith, sir. Speaking of meeting and exceeding expectations early on, it was just announced recently that the Marine Corps received its third consecutive clean audit.
Yep.
Not to lie, as an Amtracker, I hear audit and I start to glaze over.
Eyes roll back in your head.
But it is wildly important, especially in a physically constrained environment. Everybody's pulling for a very limited number of resources. What is the significance of that in your view, and what does that mean as far as because we as Marines we have this ethos of doing more with less.
Yeah, and that ethos is actually getting us in trouble. That we'll do more with less. No, we'll do less with less. The passing the third straight audit just demonstrates that a dollar spent on the Marine Corps is a dollar well spent. We can account for every nickel, and not just account for it, but that it was spent for the purpose it was intended for. I mean, the money's authorized and appropriated. I've never spent a dollar of authorized money, only a dollar of appropriated money. And so when the money gets appropriated, it's designed for an F-35 engine, or it's designed for a spare part for a rifle. That's what that dollar was for. And to be able to go into our warehouses at Marine Corps Logistics Base Albany or Marine Corps Logistics Base Barstow and account for all of the spare parts that we purchase so that we're not just stacking things up and just continuing to buy more. It's like you go to Costco and do we need toilet paper? Yeah, we need toilet paper. Well, if you got 2 big packages at home, and now you got 3 big packages at home. I mean, you got to be able to account for what you have. Yeah, I
Is
know.
that wrong?
Is that wrong? You ever have too much toilet paper?
I'm not seeing the issue here.
right
I'm not seeing the issue.
I have that issue, but my wife and I, when we go to Costco, I'm like, baby, we need bagels. She's like, we already got 4 packages of bagels in the freezer. I'm like, no, we need some more. But we can account for every dollar that we've been given, and we're the only service to do it. And people will say, oh, well, you're the smallest service. We're still in the top 100 of Fortune 500 companies based on our budget. So I take a little umbrage when people say, oh, but you guys got the smallest budget. If you gave us, $1 trillion, we would still account for $1 trillion because we have the processes in place. We have the ethos. Again, we say in the old days, you turned in your shelter half, your tent pins, and your tent poles. 5 tent pins, 3 tent poles, and a shelter half, and a guide wire. And at the end of your 3 years in 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, you turn that in, or you get your butt down to Saigon Sam's and you buy a new one because you signed for it. USMC, you signed the MF contract. That's what it stands for. And you signed your name to that piece of gear. We expect you to turn it back in or pay for it. It's a Marine thing. I mean, you don't lose your magazine in combat. You don't lose your rifle combat optic in combat because you get dead. So everything matters.
And is that a culture shift also? We're talking about, coming out of the long war, and I know we've had a minute now, but there was the perception that because we were engaged in active combat on a day-to-day basis that you could sort of get away, but you got some, maybe get some digital cameras for your platoon at serve marts. You could do SSE. You put a local TAM on it. Maybe they get turned back in. Maybe they don't.
Yeah.
And then as you're doing your RIP TOA, they don't. On here it says 6 cameras, but they only have 4. We'll put in a serve mart order. We'll get some more. Is that a real thing, or is that a perception?
It was.
Okay.
I mean, it was. There was you got your flak vest, you got your PPE. It's unserviceable. Just throw it away. Nope. You got to account for that.
Yeah.
You got to dermo it, and you can't just throw it in the dumpster. I mean, it's got to be accounted for. And we got a little bit sloppy in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, frankly, and it took us a while to get back to our roots of, hey, you signed for it. When you check out your cleaning gear for your M4, we expect you to turn back in a bore brush, a chamber brush, and 3 rods, 3 cleaning handles, that's what we expect.
And I've seen it took too long maybe for me to see the picture and the consequences of it, right? So, you go to Norway and you see Marines with jungle boots. Well, where's the cold weather boots, right? And, we didn't have enough, and even though that problem was fixed immediately, meaning staff sergeant take off your cold weather boots and give them to the lance corporal.
Right.
Because that's not really a process thing, that's a leadership thing, right? But I have seen a shift in my own brain anyway, that there's a uniform sitting on the bench today that we could probably invest in if we got our stuff together, right? And we have in the last 3 years. So maybe those savings and that mentality we'll just get new stuff will allow for this new gear to come in, so we are not being detected by a $5 drone because we have utilities that are reducing our signature, or the poncho that prevents on and on with 21st century lighter, more lethal, more protection technology, your millions that you're spending on high cuts, and Gen 3 gear. Like, we can get there a lot faster if we would have gotten our stuff together before the last audits.
And success breeds success, right?
Yep.
The more that you can show you're being responsible and you're being accountable for what you have, it makes it easier to then ask for more. And so
100% it does. When I go to the Hill, I always lead with, we passed a clean audit 3 years running. We're the only service to have done so. And Congress will respond to that and say, hey, we'll give you more because we know we can trust you with it.
Yeah.
I get asked that in testimony. Every time I'll get asked it again here in another month, I'll go over to the Hill and start testifying, and that will come up. And the other services will ask, well, how do you do it? Again, it's a Marine thing. We don't lose stuff.
Well, and at the root, it's about accountability.
Yeah, I was going to. Yeah, very good. Thank
and
you.
accountability is no matter what, it's a key skill for
Yep.
life. So you're training Marines to have that accountability when they go on to do whatever it is they do after they leave the uniform, take off the uniform and go into the civilian world.
Well, especially in aviation, when you're doing aviation maintenance, I mean, there's tool room, and you have tool room control. I mean, that is one of the key billets in a squadron. because when you check out a wrench, there's a little mark on the wall where the wrench goes. When you check out your toolkit and you turn back in your tools, if there's one missing, that means it's sitting inside of an F-35 engine.
Exactly. And that's not a good thing.
That is a deadly thing. So it's just accountability. It goes across the board. It's how we do business. I mean, it's a matter of life and death.
Yeah, I definitely, it's painful and is almost monotonous as it is to start talking about that accountability piece. It reverberates all the way down to the lowest level of not only that I am going to be holding you accountable, but you are going to start taking more ownership and appreciating the stuff that you actually have.
100%. It may not be new gear, but it's gear.
Yeah, 100%.
That's all you have.
Yes, sir, 100%. Just to shift gears a little bit, and shameless plug, it's kind of the new title of our podcast is Shameless Plug.
We're really good at it.
But we recently started doing a series on the Commandant's professional reading list, looking at different books, and having authors come in, talk about their books, or people who are really excited about books. One of the big drivers I know that you've pushed her is independent study, self-study, going beyond what's on the teep. And I thought it was really interesting that your selection as a Commandant's Choice was Once an Eagle.
Once an Eagle, Antoine Meyer.
What is it about that book that you think really, why did you choose that as the Commandant's Choice?
Yeah, it shows you two leadership styles, Sam Damon and Courtney Massengale. You want to be Sam Damon. You don't want to be Courtney Massengale. Courtney Massengale, kind of the evil guy, terrible leadership, but he rises to the top, because he kisses everybody's butt and looks, it's monkeys in a tree. From above, oh, look, a cute little monkey. From below, just a big ass, And Sam Damon, is the quintessential leader, putting other people first, doing the right thing, selfless sacrifice. Courtney Massengale, who you don't want to be. I mean, it's just a basic leadership 101 book. And if you read it, again, Once an Eagle by Antoine Meyer, it's a phenomenal book, and it'll set you up for success. It's just simple as that.
Awesome.
Simple, basic leadership.
Yeah, and looking at that leadership dynamic, too, I think there's a lot to be said for how these characters mature and change. They're not just these two-dimensional sort of icons of these things, and you get to see
some human growth.
Yeah, walk that mile, because it's so difficult for us to necessarily actually walk the mile in someone else's shoe, but through literature, you get to at least occupy the headspace as they're walking the mile.
Yeah, and there's so many good books out there. It's really hard to come up with a Commandant's reading list. I have a lot of people that come up with that, and they recommend it through Marine Corps University, and I approve it. But it's just, there's so many really, really good books out there. Asia's Cauldron. I mean, there's just some tremendous books out there. Kill Chain, good book by Chris Brose. There's no shortage of good books. In fact, if you want to find out about what books to read, you ask a guy named Steve Skolenka, who's our deputy commandant for installations and logistics. Steve is hands down the most widely read Marine I've ever met. Unfortunately, we had a guy named Bill Mullen, Major General Mullen, who passed away. Bill was a true speed reader. And Bill could power through 3-4 books in a week. I mean, he just was a true speed reader. Yeah. And he retained everything.
That's amazing.
Oh, we have his
Bill
book list on our website if you guys want to check it out for our listeners.
William F. Mullen, one of my very, very good friends, was my next door neighbor for a while here at Quantico until he passed. But he was the most widely read Marine I had ever met. Yeah. Still remains to this day.
We have some relentless Marines when it comes to off-duty education, when it comes to, just after it. And from the numbers of what Marines take advantage of, it's incredible, the tens of thousands of classes that they take on every quarter. And I know this because they were very upset at us when we said you need to finish your non-resident PME first before you get tuition assistance.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I know that they really, really like getting after it, not just in a contract in a uniform, but it's a reminder that this is your job first.
Yeah.
And it's a combination, and you have to balance it out. And we want you to do all these things and read all these books and get yourself set up so in case the Corps, because it will come to an end for all of us.
Yep, it does.
At some point, and you're ready to go, and you challenge the Corps because you do these things. But you need to do the core things first.
Yep, we're giving you your paycheck, so you if you got a choice between doing what you want to do and doing what I want you to do, you're going to do what I want you to do first. And there's
lesson
usually
for life.
yeah, there's a saying, know your enemy, win a battle. Know your boss, win 1,000 battles. So know your boss. That'd be me. So make sure that you're doing your PME first, because it's designed to help out not you, but to put you in position to help out those below you. And that's what's most important, is helping out your subordinates. I mean, that's what John Basilone died doing, and that's who we are. That's what Woody Williams earned his Medal of Honor doing. So sad that we lost him. He was an icon. So all 5'1" of him. So he was an icon.
Well, Commandant, on that note, one of the initiatives I know that you started are really leaning into is to retain not just the first termers, but to really hold on to those career Marines. And we were talking retention earlier. You'd mentioned, the 1 corporal and the 3 lance corporals in a fire team. One of the things we recently talked about, again, shameless plug on our show, was the E8 redesignation. So now we're starting to talk about these career Marines who are what avenues are we opening up now for Marines who've decided, hey, this is something that I'm going to do until they tell me I can't do it anymore? What is it about the E8 redesignation program then that we start to see sort of opening up that avenue, those avenues for those career Marines to find more, I don't want to say more fulfillment, but, to have more career options, continue to challenge those who are have decided to make this a career.
Yeah, let me tee that up, Sergeant Major first.
Yes, sir. I think he was the 21st Commandant of the Marine Corps. When we were messing around with the Master Sergeant and the First Sergeant ranks. So when the E7 said, I can be an F or an M, it was during that time, because this may sound familiar, but in that time, after World War II, we went from 400-something thousand to like 92,000 in like a couple of years, right? But what was left over was a lot of heavy NCOs. And then there was this bleeding of the services out to the civilian world because they were being hired because of their technical expertise. Aviation was on the rise.
Yep. Yeah.
So it sounds familiar today, right?
Yeah.
Like retaining the talent, and then the folks outside want that talent as well. So then the department got a study together and said, how do we retain these folks? It's a department-wide crisis. Let's retain our people. Well, then General 21st Commandant says, we will have the rank of First Sergeant, and we will have the rank of Master Sergeant. They added Master Gunnery Sergeant, and the Lance Corporal came alive. Like that's when, like the Lance Corporal Underground, that's when he was born. Like that by that order. And this was our answer to Congress. We were way ahead. As almost always, there was a Commandant with division that says, we want to retain, sure, the folks with technical expertise, because they're the ones that are in there teaching and delivering. But our key to success is going to be leadership. The key to retention is leadership. And the technical expertise of that First Sergeant is leadership. Like that is first and foremost. And therefore the Sergeant Major. And that's how the table, the rank was how it became what it is now. And so I think that the Marines deserve the best possible technical, whatever, MOS, and the best leadership. And if the times are asking for in that year that this Marine was best needed for this, always wanted to be a First Sergeant, but because they're in this MOS, there's no chance because it's a small MOS, so you are going to be a Master Sergeant. But this, the Commandant always says, if I can write my own tasking letter, I'd be pretty, almost always that Marine's going to deliver.
Yeah.
And so I think the board 99.999% of the time gets it right. But I think there are those MOSs where I have really, really, really quality leadership. That's their skill. And it's best fit in leading with a commander in formation. And so we wanted to provide that one more opportunity to make sure that we got it right.
Yeah.
And it's a pilot, and who knows if we'll keep going with it.
Yeah.
But it is a way to signal that it's not over, and you have one more shot. If you really wanted to be a First Sergeant, you can try again.
Yep.
Right.
Because it's everybody does leadership. I mean, a master sergeant is a technical expert. A master gunnery sergeant is the technical expert. A first sergeant and a sergeant major, they do leadership. They don't do MOS skills anymore. They still have an MOS, but sergeant major's MOS is 99.99. That's his MOS. He's no longer an 03. Whereas if you're a master gunny, you're an 03, 0369. And so, it's a combination of the two, but they're both responsible for leadership. They're both responsible for technical expertise. You don't just get to jettison your MOS just because you become a 99.99. You're responsible for leadership and welfare of the Marines, but every NCO and staff NCO is responsible for leadership and welfare of the Marines. So I think we have it about right. There's very few Marines who maybe they want first sergeant and they get master sergeant. 3 years later, they're super happy. Can't pry them out of that MOS. It's just like pilots, People go to flight school and they want to fly jets and they wind up flying Ospreys. 2 years after they've been flying an Osprey, you can't pry them out of that cockpit. They wouldn't fly jets if you paid them. So it's just bloom where planted.
Yeah.
Bloom where planted.
Just don't bloom to be a weed.
That's right. Yeah. Just
Amen.
Good advice.
Amen.
Words
don't pollute the soil.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, again, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate the time that you've given us. So I do want to kind of close out on some of your thoughts on the way ahead. So we've talked sort of some force structure. We've talked about retention, talked about finance. Never thought I would do that here. What are your thoughts, Commandant, on force design? We're 7 years into it. Are we walking the right path? And what do I mean by that is force design, is it enhancing our readiness for future conflict? Especially considering, like we talked about, the activities, the 22nd MU, 31st MU, and then what areas of force design would you like to see the most growth in the short term?
Yeah, I would say we're on the right path. Force design is a destination. It's a journey. It's not a destination. I mean, there's no end state to it. It's just modernizing. Again, we started with tanks.
Right.
And, I can't tell you how many times I go out and I'm talking to a group of veteran Marines like, bring back tanks. I'm like, why the hell would I bring back a 72-ton behemoth that can kill another tank at 4,000 yards when I can kill that tank with a drone at 40,000 yards?
And all the cube space that goes into it.
Just the gas and the maintenance and, it just doesn't make any sense. So we have to modernize. I mean, when you look at the Marines that fought their way across Bellawood, I mean, when you changed and you went to amphibious warfare, you didn't jettison that spirit and that ethos, and you didn't tell the Marines who fought at Bellawood, hey, your service is for nothing. And when we left World War II and went into Vietnam, we didn't tell the Marines of World War II, hey, your amphibious wars, don't mean anything. We're always modernizing. So force design is just a way to modernize to keep pace with a pacing threat, the PRC. And it's really all about range. Again, if you can't shoot out into the hundreds of kilometers, into the many, many tens of kilometers, over 100 kilometers, you're of no use. You're of no use to the joint force because you can be outsticked by the adversary. If you can't hide in plain sight, if you can't fuzz up your electromagnetic signature such that you can maneuver in that electromagnetic spectrum without being detected, or at least cause the adversary to target 3 targets instead of just you, the one target, then you're of no use to the joint force. So force design was always a journey, not a destination. And it's just about modernizing. And I can't tell you how much we have, and I really can't because of the classification level, tell you how much we have improved what we're doing in the Indo-Pacific, and then that's following onto Camp Lejeune and into Africa and into the Med. We are a much more lethal force today against the peer adversary than we were when we started force design. And we still got to build our magazine depth, but this will pass. This will get there. Mm-hmm. We just have to continue to do Nemesis, Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System. We have to continue our F-35 modernization. We got to increase our TPS-80 Gator radar, ground air task-oriented radar modernization and upgrades. We have to get our landing ship medium so we can maneuver around the littorals. We're going to get there. But again, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Yeah. And you can't look at you changed. Right. I mean, again, the Marine Corps has been changing since the first guy signed up at Tun Tavern. And there was a corporal saying, oh, these new guys are this. It's like, well, the Marine Corps, when you look at it through history, has always adapted, always modernized, always been at the leading edge. And when you look at what we did in New Caledonia to World War II, I mean, that was a blink of an eye. So moving our amphibious doctrine.
Yeah.
And poof, at the end of World War II, we hung on to that, and then we went to Korea. And we left our amphibiosity behind, and then we went to Vietnam, and we left it behind again. Then we went to wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. We left it behind again. Now we're returning to those roots because they're very, very important to us. But
yeah, absolutely, Commandant. It makes me think of, there's a line in The Simpsons where the Flanders parents, they say, we've done nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Yep.
I think coming out of the long war, we were almost stuck in that dynamic.
Yeah, we were. We had really good equipment, and we had really good mine detectors. Okay, well that doesn't really help. You had MRAPs, mine resistant ambush protecting vehicles that are of no use now.
77 tons or something.
Yeah, they're sitting in Barstow, California, and they're sitting in Albany, and they're being sold for scrap because they're of no use anymore. But they were useful then.
And so then, Commandant, as we're talking force design and the being, more the journey is in the path. What is it that the Marine Corps is giving to America as we are, well into America's 250? What is it that the Marine Corps is doing to ensure that we remain America's most reliable fighting force, even for the next 250 years?
We're still making Marines, and we've never lost our push that the individual Marine forms the Marine Corps. It's not about the unit. It's not about his or her equipment. It's not about the formation or what we call it. It's about the individual Marine, and that Marine is willing to lay down his or her life for an ideal, that they're willing to give anything and everything to earn the title Marine. And once they earn the title, they're protecting the brand. They'll do anything and everything that you ask of the individual Marine. That's our ethos. That's who we are. That's who we are as a service. We're about the individual Marine being able to do miraculous things under arduous conditions. And we haven't changed that one bit. If you go to boot camp today, it's every bit as grueling. If you go to OCS, Officer Candidate School, the basic school where Sergeant Major and I are headed next, it is every bit as grueling as it was when I went through. It's every bit as grueling as it was when Sergeant Major put his feet on the yellow footprint. Put your foots on the yellow footprints. Your footses.
Start with the left, though.
Yeah, start with the left. Always start with the left. Sorry, man.
Yes, sir. I in that journey, what we give back to America is the Marine, right? And how they have gone through the gauntlet and how they come out on the other side, and they're ready to lead, right? And so for me, it's a day one mentality that we give back to the Corps and to the American people, that we're after, okay, 250 done, okay, day one, right, January 1st, every day we have to earn it. And I think that's what's special about the Corps, as the Commandant says, that 25,000 plus Marines leave, 25,000 come back in, and then, force design or whatever the next thing will be will never be accomplished without the discipline and the standards that the Marine must meet and have within themselves to get there. And when that happens, that's how you get a Corps for another 250 plus years and America that thrives.
Awesome.
So.
I have a rogue question for you, General.
Rogue question.
Speaking of stepping,
I did not
stepping
get this
out of comfort zones.
As long as it's not about pro baseball, because I'm not a Rangers fan anymore.
No.
So.
Although we could talk about that, but regular listeners know that I'm an aviation nerd, and so I saw the pictures of you with your F-18 Hornet ride, and
Yep.
First of all, I need to say how envious I am, and I want to say if you can put in a word with anybody to get me a ride in an airplane, just that wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be bad. I need to know, how was that? Tell me.
Awesome. It was awesome. I got a new appreciation for the aviators and what they go through. Commander Rousa, my Navy aide, went up with me in the backseat of another Hornet, and it was a true aviation appreciation day, because it's no joke pulling G's. I mean, it's no joke getting suited up into that kit. I mean, it's an ordeal shoving yourself into a flight suit, and then just the amount of information that is coming to you across those screens. And again, this is an F-18. This is a Gen 4 aircraft. Now we're into Gen 5, F-35s. the amount of information that is flowing into that cockpit is amazing. And I got a newfound respect for aviators. You know, my MilSec, military secretary, call sign Putty Shoop, is an F-18 driver. You know, I got a newfound respect for him because it is, your mind has to be racing, and you always got to stay one step ahead, and you got to be physically fit. You know, you can't be out of shape and pull 5 or 6 Gs because you'll pass out. So it was great. It's a great experience, and but it really comes down to, okay, you get to put on your kit and go fly. Okay, that's great. But it's about all the Marines who make the jet fly. It's about the maintainers. It's about the air traffic controllers. It's about the tool room control Marines. It's about the airframers and the avionics techs, you know, and the flight line equipment operators and the and those who are out there as the plane captains. I mean, it takes a village to get an aircraft up in the air. But the aircraft represent our real killing power.
Sure.
I mean, we have the 7th largest air force in the world in the Marine Corps. And that's when push comes to shove, you know, infantrymen like Sergeant Major and myself, we're not doing that much killing on the battlefield. Most of the killing on the battlefield gets done by aviation. So that's just a fact. And it'll be the fact in the next war as well. So I got a lot of respect for my pilots.
Awesome.
So they get a good flight pay, and I'm glad they get flight pay.
Well, thank you for letting me live vicariously through that
Yeah.
flight, because I'm very envious.
And I'll be
was
sure
good.
to check my snide comments about sleep schedules.
Crew rest is very, very important.
Crew rest is very important. I've seen a couple mishaps happen due to crew rest not being adhered to, and that's unfortunate. But crew rest is a thing. I mean, you know, it's like 8 hours bottle to throttle. Some things are inviolate, and you can't violate your crew rest because, you know, I want my pilots well rested.
Yes,
because it is very, very complicated.
Absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time.
You bet.
And yeah, I can't wait to put this out.
Yeah,
so
we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome.
Hey, what's going on, William?
Not much, Vic. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing well. How things been going? You been doing any wargaming lately?
I wargame every day, Vic. I'm an addict.
I know that's kind of a rhetorical question. I already knew the answer to it, but yeah. So that's great. What are you diving into these days?
I'm doing a non-historical scenario based around the Maryland campaign during the American Civil War. I'm playing actually a mirror match. I'm doing both one game as North, one game as South against the same opponent, so we can compare and contrast each other's strategies.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. So would you say that like your consumption deals mainly with like tabletop? Are you card? Are you digital?
Primarily digital. Actually, I'm a huge fan of War Game Design Studio and their variety of war games covering anywhere from, you know, the ages of musket and pike, medieval era, to even contemporary up to modern day.
And they've got a pretty large like catalog of stuff to choose from.
Pretty
right?
large. Actually, they do have some on, you know, the Global War on Terror. I haven't looked to see if, you know, I can find any of your units. If there's a Vic Rubel character out there.
Yeah, dude. If you had a Vic Rubel in Abu Hayat, the main thing you'd probably have to deal with is the time spent in the smoke pit, sleeping, and then cursing as I was falling down wadis would be your big dilemma.
I don't even need to buy the game to do that. I can just do that on a daily basis. Well, anyways, so yeah, definitely recommend Working Design Studio. In fact, you know, on the Marine Corps Association website, if you go to our professional development page, you see decision-making games and exercises. We actually have a discount section.
Oh, yeah. Is there a code that comes with that?
Yeah, it's MCA 25, capital M, capital C, capital A, 25, just the numerics, and you can go and get 25% off of any order for any amount of games you want. So if you buy, you know, all 100 plus games, that's 25% off.
Buy one, 25% off.
Precisely.
Awesome. And then, so if I went to War Game Design Studios and I put in that discount code of MCA25, I'm in.
You're in, buddy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and you or anyone listening to this could put that code in, and then maybe if you're unfortunate enough, you'll actually face me on the battlefield. And
that would be unfortunate, especially for me. But especially as we are looking at, like, you know, we've had episodes where we've talked about on the show where we've talked about, you know, potential wars across the globe, and then, you know, limited training, and you never know when this stuff's going to go down. This is a great way to get your reps and sets in, right?
Exactly. You know, you do this just to, on the side, it doesn't even need to take long to do a turn. It can get a tournament anywhere from like 2 to 5, 10, 15, you know, even up to 30 minutes. So really as much time as you really need to dedicate toward it. And it just could be like a quick mental game for you to figure out how to solve a particular problem. Even if you're getting your butt handed to you, it's like, okay, shoot, I'm losing. How can I dig myself out of this hole? Is sometimes a question that many people might need to ask themselves.
And if you need to break from, you don't want to go cold turkey from your computer, but you feel like you need a break, this is a great way to get off of like TikTok and social media and just focus and actually develop your brain rather than rotting it.
Exactly, precisely. So definitely go ahead on our website, check out the Marine Corps Association Professional Development page, get that code
MCA25,
and go ahead and get your reps and sets in on the wargaming.
All right, let's do it. Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices or contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Litchman, William Truding, and our guest. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.